Well, good evening, and you're listening to the Alternative Energy Hour on Wide Awake News. It's Monday, Tax Day, April 15th, 2013, and I am your host for the first hour of this program. My name is Gary Hendershot, and I welcome you to the Alternative Energy Hour. And Frankly, I hope everybody is in better spirits than I am. I hope that most of you are looking forward to that big check back from Uncle Sugar. Just remember who it was who sent their check in so you could get yours back. To my regulars out there who, I missed a production on Thursday. I usually do an audio-video presentation on Thursday that I vanity publish on Justin TV. And to be honest with you, I was just too blasted tired to pull off that show that night. To those folks out there who are hoping for a program from me on Thursday, my apologies. But I do hope to make up a little bit tonight because I got a fella coming in that we haven't talked to in a little while. You know, this guy, he's our traveling ambassador. This guy is all over the place. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. And a lot of times where he's located, the internet system consists of 2 tin cups and a string, and it's like pulling teeth trying to get him in here to do a presentation for us. But this time he apparently finds himself in rather luxurious surroundings from what he showed me on camera just a few minutes ago, in a backwater place called Bangkok. Never heard of the place. I understand that's north of Washington State. I'm sure it's north of the Mason-Dixon line because I never heard of it. But in any case, I would like you all to welcome Mr. Mark Dansie to the program tonight, who is coming to us live via Skype from Bangkok. So how you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. It's early in the morning here in Bangkok, and
yeah, I understand. I rolled you out of the rack earlier than usual today, huh? You didn't get to sleep in till noon like you usually do.
I wish, but it's good being up early. It's very humid and very hot here. It's the hottest month of the year.
Well, now, it seems like you're in fairly luxurious surroundings there. So certainly you've got, the modern amenities. You've got air conditioning, and I noticed you had a little drink with an umbrella in it. So
That's my coffee.
Let me cry you a river about how rough you got it there. I mean, the place looks really pretty swanky.
Well, yeah. Well, it's cheap. Anyway, I love this city. It's about 12 million people. I wouldn't call it a backwater. It's a very sophisticated city, world class. I put it into first world cities. The underground, public transport, railways, absolutely brilliant. I use the ferry on the river, and I can travel for an hour and a half for about 50 cents, Gary, up and down the river. It's a great mode of transport. For the last 2 days, and we'll get the travel log bit done, those who can see your webcam, they have their New Year's.
Now you better be careful showing that on Justin TV, Mark, because
it's a water pistol.
Yeah, but we have this thing here in the United States called Department of Homeland Security, and those boys think anything that's got a pistol grip on it is an assault weapon. So you're liable to get tackled and tased if any. But
that's true.
I know you can't talk politics or they'll pull your green card. But that's.
I haven't got a green card. In fact, I can't get back to America until I get a new visa because they sort of didn't like my last visa, so I have to go and get a new one, and I have to be back in Australia.
Well, now, what does that do to your employment? Because I understood that you were employed by a firm someplace in Utah, and if you can't get back into the country, what does that do to your employment prospects?
No, I'm actually a partner in that. That's our lab, but I'm over here doing business actually, traveling around.
Yeah, give the folks an idea. What are you seeing in Bangkok? What are you hoping to find while you're there?
Well, first thing, I want to get back to this festival for 2 days.
Yeah, go ahead.
New Year's, actually 4 days, and everybody runs around squirting each other with water pistols, buckets of water, and pickup trucks along the road shooting out water. If you're on a bus with the open windows, the old ones, bucket will come through the window. Everybody has fun. They all run around shooting each other with water pistols, and it's crazy. You go to some areas, everybody's doing it, and it's part of a water festival where it's to do with having a blessing. But you look up YouTube, look up Bangkok water pistol fights. The most impressive one I saw was an elephant, and they can pack some water in those trunks, and then they blast the passer-bys with the elephant. So I sort of got back to thinking of what a great, fun place to be, and this is a great city, and one of my favourite eating spots in the world too. The food is just wonderful. But enough of the travel log. We're not here for that. I'm over here. We're pursuing the water flashlight still, and that's grown into quite a few projects actually, water-powered projects. So I'm over here with some other partners, and we've been travelling Asia. In fact, 2 weeks ago I did 4 countries in 4 days, and we're discussing with manufacturers, distributors, potential business partners, and closing a deal as we speak to get those products into production and distributed around the world. So
now the ones,
that's what I'm doing over here.
The ones you have manufactured in Asia, this is for your target third world market. And I mean, I think last time we talked, you were kind of hoping to find an American manufacturer who might manufacture for the American market. Were you at all successful finding a good, solid American manufacturer?
No, it doesn't mean there's not any over there, but some components will or may be manufactured over there. The assembly, distribution networks, all come from Asia, and unfortunately most of the flashlights you see in America, except Magnalite and a couple of others, a lot of the ones you see are manufactured over here. So that's sort of a good and the bad of that, Gary, but we will be using components that are made in America. But it's a big project. I mean, this is one thing when you see inventors and free energy machines. This involves a lot of money. If you're going to be selling a lot of product or hoping to distribute a lot of product like we are to third world countries to help people wean themselves off kerosene, it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of enterprise, and there's a lot of good enterprise here. However, I thought tonight we'll talk about, rather than American Asia, which I gave a good rap last time, some of the developments that are happening in the energy field. And I was watching a program on the BBC the other night. It was a great program called Horizons. And they're discussing 2 particular free technologies.
You got about 30 seconds before they start playing bumper music at us. So you I don't know. You might want to give them a taste, but be ready to fill in the hardball stuff when we get back from the first break.
Just new developments in solar and hydrogen production. So I'll talk about them when I come back. Then in the third section I want to review some recent events with magnetic motors and other technologies. So, basically, until the bumper music comes, there's some very clever scientists and companies, spin-offs from Cambridge, that have developed 2 things. One is a solar panel or cell that will be very, very inexpensive, flexible, and it's based really on sort of like photosynthesis in many, many ways.
Now, is this kind of like that one that I've seen for campers that you can kind of actually roll it into like a roll? I mean,
yes, correct. You can do that. With a big breakthrough on this, it can be produced very, very inexpensively. The efficiencies are only up around 10% at the moment, but it's
compared to what for high performance cells?
Normal cells, 20 watts is, commercially about the top of the range. You can get 40s, out of the lab, but it's very, very good because the cost per watt is going to be reduced greatly.
Alrighty, and there is that bumper music for our first break. So, folks, please do stand by. We'll be back with more from Mark Dansie after these blatantly commercial interruptions. Well, and we have made it back from our first commercial interruption of the evening, and we are talking tonight with Mark Dansie, who finds himself way over in the Far East in Bangkok, wheeling and dealing like the best capitalists of the world. So tell us, Mark, have you met with a success in your quest? I mean, obviously, I was nagging you a little bit as we went out for the break. When am I going to see that damn flashlight you've been promising me for the past year? When am I actually going to be able to buy one of these bad boys? And you might want to torture us a little bit with just what it is I'm babbling about, because there's probably a lot of people out there who have never heard you talk about this thing before and have no idea what we're discussing.
These are water-powered devices like flashlights or small room lights that basically consume a little bit of metal rod, and water. Basically, they run on water. So a dollar component can run a light or a flashlight for several hundred hours, and they just require a little bit of salt water. And the good news is, for instance, if you're in a third world country where 1.6 billion people don't have access to electric lighting, they're using kerosene at the moment, and it can cost them, depending on the subsidies they're getting, it can cost them 80 cents to $1.30 a week, which could be a big chunk of their income. I mean, I go out for dinner here and I spend $1. And I eat like a king. But this will cost them 5 cents, maybe 10 cents a week. The other good news is, the shelf life of the principal components is water's forever, for decades.
And so people out there don't get any misunderstanding here. We're not talking about something magic here. No. There is a consumable in this. There is what people would consider to be a fuel.
The consumable, one of our consumables, the size of a couple of AA's, is equivalent to over 100 AA batteries. So if you buy one and you only use it an hour a week, it'll last you a few years. If you use it every night, it might be a bit quicker, but we can run a flashlight. I've run samples for over 1,000 hours, but we're aiming for the 200 to 400 hour mark for a flashlight. So basically, you just add water for the life of the flashlight. It could be down the track, you have to buy something that's a bit like a, Anyway, Gary, you got me off this tangent.
I know.
Talking about England.
I know, I'm terrible.
Two great technologies I saw coming out of there. One is a new solar cell that will be printed on film. Nothing new about that, except this one is very inexpensive, very close to mass production, and it will reduce, once again, the cost per watt right down. We're down around, you can buy panels now for 65 cents a watt. 3 years ago, they cost you $4 a watt or $3 a watt. So they're coming down, and it's making it, grid compatible. The other development, which I know would interest you, and that's why I brought it up, used to play around with electrolysis and hydrogen quite a bit. I used to love following your engine experiments, Gary.
My engine explosions?
Yeah, and those. But the good thing was, you learnt pretty quickly there wasn't any magic source where you needed so much energy in or electricity in to get so much gas out. And you could never quite get there where, the energy you needed in was ever less than the energy, or was it the other way around? The energy you had to put in was always more than the energy you could get out. That's the way it was. However, this new technology I think is going to be very fascinating. They're actually converting, using like leaves again, they're using some catalysts, and we've got electrodes, but they're powered by light, like sunlight. So you put these in the water, you just drop the plate, if you like, in the water, and if you've got a light source or sunlight, it starts producing hydrogen and oxygen. So no electricity needed, and they never wear out. There's no consumable here except for the water. That, to me, is a breakthrough. They may not be able to get the production you need to keep a car running down the road, but for home energy production or industry or remote location, this might prove to be an answer. They're claiming 5 years. You never know with these things. But I thought that was quite fascinating, in that the fact that we don't need electricity, we don't need any chemicals, you need water and sunlight.
Now this is something that's being shown in a lab environment. Have you gotten any information at all, any intelligence on when such a development might be commercialized? We got about a minute before the next break.
They're saying under 5 years, but I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting development and it seems to be the right direction. It could be accelerated, it could be longer. They can't really pinpoint it. But I just thought you'd enjoy that one because there's your hydrogen supply and you just need sunlight and water. I thought that was pretty innovative.
Sounds to me like something we ought to put on a barge and just, float, float one out there and collect the hydrogen. That sounds like an idea to me.
I think it's a great idea. But I guess I'm talking about these technologies because we read and see in the free energy, nothing's ever coming to fruition. We get a lot of disappointments. However, out there in the companies I'm seeing in Asia, as well as doing our business, we're evaluating a lot of other technologies and other ones I know of that are happening in the US and America. There's some wonderful technologies coming forth in wind technology, in solar technology, in thermal electric technology. There's many, many hundreds of developments that we may not be able to extract, quote, free energy, whatever that means, but there's going to be ways of extracting sunlight, wave power, heat, wind, much more efficiently and in ways that we'll see it in everyday life. So we can power our houses, so we can power our vehicles, so we can power whatever we need to power. And that's where I think the changes are going to come about as these technologies are implemented.
All right, Mark, I am here. Your timing was excellent, by the way. My compliments. Apparently you heard the little ditty in the background. But folks, please do stand by for this next little burst of commercial announcements. I'll be back with Mark Dansie in just a few moments. I tell you, nowadays when they knock at my door, I try to decide whether I should put on my titanium underdrawers or grab my hog leg. Well, anyway, Mark, we're getting off topic again. What can I say? I wanted.
You brought up the perfect topic. You did.
Well, I'll turn it over to you then. I mean, take it away, man. It's real. This really should be your presentation.
Well, I mentioned there's a lot of good energy stuff happening of how we can source energy. And one of the interesting things is that I've discovered is that you're saying, who do we pay it to? We're all sick of paying electricity companies on the grid. We're sick of paying big oil companies for the petroleum we use, whether it's gasoline or petrol or diesel or whatever. So the change is coming, and these technologies, the alternatives, the ones I'm talking about in Australia, Germany, France, all sorts of countries, people are adopting it. They're putting, a lot of my friends, very good friends, are putting solar systems on their houses as they become less expensive or subsidised by the government. Some of them are getting checks from the power companies. Most are still paying power. My niece, for instance, she pays just a few dollars a quarter, $60 a quarter now. She used to pay hundreds of dollars a quarter. So it enables people to power their houses, whether they're using wind, solar, or one of these other technologies I'm talking about that are being released, to get energy independence. For your vehicle, you're still stuck with gasoline for a while, but new developments in batteries will enable people to get longer distances for electric cars. That will be the enabling technology for electric cars. It's cheap, inexpensive, long-range batteries or capacitors. And there's making huge strides in those developments. So I can see in 5-10 years' time, many people being able to become independent. Now, this technology we're talking about that we're working on, the water-powered one, 77 billion litres a year is being consumed by these people. They're buying a litre a week per light. Guess where that money's going? To big oil companies, costing them up to 20-30% of their income. We're going to reduce that cost down to a fraction of that, maybe 5 or 10%. They suddenly get energy independence. They own it. Or small solar systems are going into these places. So I think there's going to be a shift because energy is the new currency. Forget dollars and cents. Energy is what the world's going to be hungry for. Energy will be the new currency. Energy will be the commodity of the future. So hopefully we can shift the shift from big corporations, big electric companies, big oil companies, big energy companies, through to where individuals are either completely or supplementing their energy needs through using solar, wind, and have that independence. They're not dependent on these companies. And powering your vehicle. That hydrogen technology I talked to you about. You could be sitting there at home during the day, the sunlight shining onto a panel, and it could be, going into a hydrogen tank which you're using for your car. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it pans out. Well, the electric vehicle, if you did have that 500-mile range, you didn't have to replace the batteries every 3 years. Suddenly, it's a lot more sensible to buy an electric car than it is. So I'm a little bit on my soapbox, Gary, so I better let you get a word in, but that's what I'm seeing with these alternative technologies.
We're talking about electric cars, and I agree with you. At least here in the United States, now, I can't speak for everywhere in the world. My traveling days are long over, but here in the United States, we have, some of us have fairly significant commutes to where an all electric car, frankly, just ain't practical. But now, I can tell you that my wife's commute is only about 6-7 miles a day. Okay? Now, you would think she would be an ideal candidate for one of these plug-in electrics. It's all electric, all batteries. But there's another problem with electric cars. You don't find any of these all-electric cars that have some of the amenities that particularly those of us in the southern states find attractive, like air conditioning. If she drove her 7-mile commute in the middle of summer in a vehicle without air conditioning, by the time she got to work, she'd have to turn around and come home because she'd be exhausted. So there are some other technological advancements that I'm going to have to see in these all-electric vehicles before they'll really be practical for me. But in many places in the world, I can imagine them being extremely practical if we could just get battery technology to where the range was a little better.
I agree with you. And over here, interesting, I'm watching television. I very rarely get to see TV, but I was watching television. Guess what was on the TV? Electric car ads. As often as you get your Chevy ads, I guess, I'm seeing Nissan Leafs and this and that. They're really getting pushed over here. And what was very interesting, some of these countries like here, there's a lot of motorcycles or scooters, same as in Taiwan and China. And many, many, many of those electric powered. And I was at a shop the other day, and for, how much was it? It was $500. I could buy an electric scooter. How cool's that? Plug it in and zip down the road, go to the shops. Often you're better off with a scooter than a car over here, given the traffic conditions. So you're starting to see it, but it's sort of coming from the bicycles to the scooters. Then, like you said, the battery. The battery technology is there. It's in the labs. It's got to come out of the labs and start being implemented. And that's still going to take a year or two to do. So there's one battery in particular I've mentioned on the show a few times. It's got 20,000 life cycles. That's going to outlast a car any day. The trouble is with current battery technology, it costs you more for the batteries to replace them than it would for the gasoline over the period that you use them. And that's the real killer, because these batteries aren't cheap that they're using. So how long before the next buzz, Gary?
We got about, I think it's about 41 minutes, so we got about 2 minutes before they jingle us out of here for another break.
Well, I wanted to lead into the next topic I'll finish off with tonight. I'm actually getting more friendly mail than hate mail at the moment, so I guess I must have done something right. But
well, now see, I gauge the popularity of my material by how much hate mail I get. And I can tell you right now, my hate mail exceeds my love mail by about 3 to 1.
Well, mine used to, but anyway,
well, then you're off your game. You're gonna have to start talking nasty about somebody's mama. That's all there is to it.
I've been banned off Free Energy News, so I don't get to make as many enemies as I used to. However, I'm on a few other forums over unity.com and a few YouTubes, and I'm still on some forums there. But there's been a bit of news lately. I got a lovely email from a gentleman the other day, and I still follow people developing magnetic motors and pulse motors and all sorts of things, gravity wheels, and until now, Gary, I have to state, I've got a few friends that have done what I've done for years and years. You know, they've travelled the world. They've got more money than sense. I haven't. I've got neither sense or money. But they've travelled the world. None of us to this date, and I'm putting an exclusion here of there is something with LNER, none of us to date have ever measured, seen, observed, tested, or otherwise a self-loop running device producing excess energy, whether it be a magnetic motor, a pulse motor, a gravity device.
I'll take it one step further than that. I have yet to see one that can self-power, regardless of having any excess. I mean, you know, frankly, if I saw a convincing demonstration of one that self-powered, you know, I'd be looking at that like, whoa, baby. It wouldn't even have to generate anything over and above that. Just show me one that can self-loop, and I would be impressed. I've yet to see that.
I agree. I agree with you fully, because people often ask me about that, and you know, I'm viewed as a hard skeptic or, you know, Darth Dan's in that. It's quite far from the truth. We're about trying to find these devices, and you know, there's still quite a few more to investigate and dig up.
There's that bumper music, Mark. So
remember
where you left off, and we will
I know exactly
we'll pick this discussion up where we left off right after these commercials. Please do stand by. And we're back from our final commercial interruption for this segment with my guest, Mark Dansie, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand, where we hope he's concluded his negotiations and may get his green card and be allowed back into the States. So, Mark.
That's not going to happen. I think
never going to happen. Huh? Well, I tell you what, you're definitely not going to get that. You're definitely not going to get that water gun into the country. They'll keep you out for that, no doubt.
I have to go back to Australia to apply to your embassy in Australia. I can't do it from here.
Oh boy, you know,
Australia. So I have to fly back to Australia.
Dealing with bureaucrats, such is life. In any case, do you remember where we left off before we cut out for the break? I know you're getting ready to talk some bad names about magnet motors, and we just have had a most recent disappointment with an exhibition of what we were told was going to be a 5-day continuous run of such a device. Perhaps you'd like to brief the folks on what we actually saw.
You saw ZIP, the Yieldits device. You saw something running, powering a propeller. My best estimates from engineers I trusted, 10 to 30 watts.
Well, your connection's breaking up on us a little bit, Mark.
You could use wind-up mechanisms. So, is that better? Oh, I'll move this around a little bit.
Pedal faster, Mark. Your connection there from Bangkok is starting to sound like that two tin cups and a string we had when you were.
Is that any better?
Yeah, your signal's a little bit stronger. Let's see if maybe we can get your audio so it's not breaking up every. You know, it would come right down to the last segment when you're going to talk some serious trash that your connection goes kaflooey. But go ahead.
Yeah, the Yieldits device showed absolutely nothing. That was predicted by myself and many others, and it's just the same old con. One of the people I was reading in one of the
Hey Mark, go ahead and kill your video. Kill your video feed.
Two universities he did show that.
Hey Mark, your audio's gotten so bad. Just go ahead and kill your video feed and hope we get some good audio. I've got a still image I can put up.
What? I'm just going to kill the link. Just call me back in. Skype does that sometimes after 40 minutes. Just call me straight back, Gary. Okay.
I'll call you right back. And to the audience, I'm sorry for this momentary interruption, but apparently our Skype connection with Mark got really sketchy there, and we're down to the last segment. All right, Mark. Right now, it sounds like we might have decent audio from you, so I'm going to shut up and let you use this last 10 minutes or so to take names and kick some butt.
Right, the Yieldance device. I'm mentioning that because it was one of the projects you were following. They proved nothing. I read in one of the forums where somebody phoned a couple of the universities who'd be previously claimed to demonstrate it at and got a totally different story. All we saw was something which was predicted by not only myself but many, many people, that he would only demonstrate it, it would only run for enough hours for the batteries to run out, or some sort of mechanical winding device, or hamsters didn't get enough grain to power it. Nothing was shown, as per usual, that convinced anybody apart from the people who've been drinking the Kool-Aid. And this is unfortunate because it's characters like that. He's been around for 7 years now that I know of. I believe it's longer. And they keep doing these things. They keep building up people's hopes, claiming they've got this and that. They've got patents. And in the background, quite often, I'm not saying in this case, there's been investors who put money in and then the money runs out. So they do another dog and pony show. We've been to this university in the parking lot, or we've been invited to this. No, you bought a stand. That's what happened. You hired some space at this Inventors Expo. These people make it really, really hard for legitimate ones. There's some great people, many of your audience actually, who are great experimenters, who are working on pulse motors and magnetic motors. I've got quite a few friends who are, have they achieved anything yet to date? No. But can they? We don't know, but at least they're trying. But people like this really make me angry. And what really makes me angry is the people who continually promote them and make these claims. And then soon as this one's gone, we're starting to see already what's going to be the next number one, or what's going to be this one. Oh, we've got one in India now. Oh, we've got one in France. Or we've got one here or there. That's what's really, really annoying. You just keep this continuous chase of building up hope. And that's where I sort of lose it a little bit, Gary. I just find this continuing building up people's hopes and letting them down, building up hopes and letting them down, it wears a bit thin after a while. So I guess that's my beef.
Well, you do have to have some sympathy, though, for the folks. Take me, for example. I'm trying to report the news. And when some guy gets up and stands on a soapbox and says, "Man bites dog," I scratch my head and I say, you know what? If the man really did bite the dog, that's news. I got to cover it. Even if I kind of look sideways at it and say, it just don't sound right to me, still, it is news. Now, how...
That's where you're different. That's where you're different. And many other news sources are different. I'm all for of reporting the news. Absolutely. And you put it up in such a way, Gary, and this is what I really love about your show, is let the listener or viewer make up their own goddamn mind, or whatever your saying is.
Well, it's true to a certain degree. I mean, there used to be a journalistic tradition where it was the purpose of the journalist to put forward anything that even resembled a newsworthy topic, put it out there, and the audience was discerning enough to pick through, look at it with a cautious eye, and decide for themselves whether this was real or not. But it seems over the last 20 years or so, people got lazy, and they started to assume that everything they read the New York Times or the Washington Post was the gospel. And, it's got to be true because it was in the newspaper. Well, nowadays it's got to be true because it was on the internet. Well, you know what? There's a lot of nice stuff on the internet, but there's also a lot of BS.
I agree with you. But what's different between you and... I'll give you another thing. They talk about suppression and free energy. The only news service I know which I've been banned off, which is the Free Energy News, that practices suppression because lots of people I know who try and put comments up there to balance what's claimed or to say they have this evidence or that's not what they observe is banned. It's all one-sided. It's all pro. I agree with you. What you put up and what a lot of other things. You go to the overunity.com forum and many, many other forums that deal with this free energy. They're all balanced. They have many opinions, good, bad, indifferent. They analyse the claims. They put it through a test period. Where I'm a little bit critical of, where people just keep saying, Send more money, send more money. This is real, this is real. This is going to happen. We're going to prove all the skeptics wrong. Great if they ever do, but the track record so far is Skeptics 100, free energy, self-running, self-loop devices 0. Still report it, absolutely. Still let people know about these things, absolutely. But don't go portraying stuff as real before there's any evidence that it is. And that's the key to all this. Don't portray something that hasn't been proven as it is, as if it already has been proven.
Well, now on that score, Mark, I got to hold your feet to the fire, because at one point or another, you were torturing us with the possibility that there might be a Mark Dansie hosted website that would deal with these issues in a more objective format. How far along that path have you gotten, or is that like so many of Zero Fossil Fuels projects, you know, half completed and
No, I'll take that.
He's in the audience tonight. That's why I'm taking a shot at him.
I love Zero. Zero is, I'm a #1 fan in the world of Zero.
I tell you, he totally redeemed himself with that darn rocket stove. He totally redeemed himself. That was a brilliant project, beautifully executed. So for all the nasty shots I take at Zero, he redeemed himself with that project alone. But in any case, how are you coming along with the website? Is there going to be such a thing, and if so, when?
Yes, I've got it registered, the forum. I've got the 2 people going to run it. I have to get back to the country they're in to get them started, and I just haven't had that opportunity in the last few weeks. It is going ahead. I'm just a bit behind with it, because it's been very, very busy over here, Gary, evaluating all these companies and doing that. Like I said, I did 4 countries in 4 days once the last few weeks, and we've been extremely busy. I have to be able to take a week off, which I'm hoping will happen soon. The domain's registered. I've got the people who are going to put it all up, monitor it, do all the rest. That is getting very, very close. So I do hope to have something very, very soon. I just physically haven't had the time, and this is more important because this feeds my children and keeps the family going. It's more important I do this at this stage, then I'll revert to that once this is completed. But there are other ones already out there. Your radio program and your blog is excellent. Your
well, one of these days, I hope I can actually find some time to do some blogging. Now, Mark, I got to warn you, we're only about a minute before they take the hook and drag us off the stage here. But I do want to make sure you get that minute to, say your piece. Your parting comments, sir. It's your minute to burn as you see fit.
Simple. There is no such thing as a self-running magnetic motor or one that can produce any excess energy. Will it ever happen? I don't know. Some good people, might even be Zero or somebody like him who stumbles upon it one day. And there's a whole lot of other your audience who work on these projects. But please, please don't get so gullible to believe all the claims that are coming. And Gary, thank you for your time and thank you for the opportunity.
Mark, as always, it's great to have you here. Great to hear from you. I'm sorry we haven't been able to catch up more often. For the folks in the audience, please do stay tuned after this commercial break. Charlie has a very interesting guest he's going to be bringing in tonight, Susan Lindauer, so please do stay tuned until after these messages are over.